Okay, today's video is going to be some practical tools that you can use in your own recovery. Feels like it's been a while since I've done an actual like practical tools one. So just have a few things jotted down that I want to go over, so it might feel a little scattered, but here are some obstacles that I ran into in my recovery, and then kind of like the tools that I used or the, little tips and tricks that I used to help me to remedy these obstacles. So the first one was anytime someone offered me food in recovery, I said yes. I made a rule that I had to say yes to any food that was offered to me. That was really, really challenging for me because I was so used to just saying no, thank you. No, thank you. I just ate. Oh, I'm not hungry. No, thanks. Oh, I'm good. Thanks. Maybe later. Oh, thanks. No, thanks. Always, always was a no to things that people were offering me. Um, or even like, hey, you want to go, grab lunch? Oh, no, thanks. I have this going on, or blah, blah. I always said no. So make it a rule of thumb that you say yes. Just say yes. Like, you don't have to think about it. You're probably like, Becky, but what if I just ate? But Becky, what if I don't like the food? But Becky, what if this? What if that? Just make it a rule that you say yes and then eat it and eat as much of it as you want. Okay. So that's the first thing that I realized in order to overcome this issue that I have with saying no to everything that I'm offered. I'm just going to say yes to everything. Very bold, very aggressive move that you can do in recovery that will really, really kind of launch you into unrestricted eating. The next thing is this is kind of funny, but my dad, and I'm sure you've probably heard this joke. If you haven't, maybe, maybe it'll be funny too. But my dad used to say, "Yeah, I'm on a seafood diet," and we'd be like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I see food and I eat it." Hopefully you get it. So I joked around in recovery and was like, yeah, I'm on a seafood diet. So any kind of food I saw, like if I saw food and it looked good to me, I ate it. If I saw food and it scared me, I ate it. If I saw food and I was kind of like so on it, I ate it. Unless I saw food and I was like repulsed by it and I was like not eating disorder repulsed, but just like, I don't know, really, really, really spicy food with like octopus leg or something. I don't know, something like really disgusting, repulsive, then I would eat it. And I would just like all these new foods that I would just eat because I saw them and I wasn't sure if I was going to like them. I told myself I didn't for so long. But when I just made it a rule that, like, if I see the food and it even looks a tiny bit appetizing to me, I have to eat it. So that was another thing I did. Um, with the food being perfect thing, oh my gosh, this was hard. This one was really, really hard. And what I found was as I came out of the state of famine that I was in when I started, this got easier. But at the beginning, oh my word, food had to be perfect. I felt like it had to be like exactly what I was craving. And even if I was craving it and then I got it and it didn't like blow my mind, it would just like ruin my day. I would get so frustrated about it. Having food on a pedestal is a sign that you're not getting enough food. So when your every waking moment is looking forward to that meal or that food item or whatever it is that you're thinking about, that's a sign you need to be eating a lot more food. Okay. That's just a good mental state marker that you're still in a famine. Um, the next thing was food preparation. So I had a really hard time. I'll use this as an example because this was actually a real life example for me in recovery. I really loved like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I had the hardest time justifying it just because the actual idea of bread and butter and jam was terrifying. But then on top of that, it was even more terrifying because how long does it take to put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich together? A minute, maybe less. How long does it take to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? A minute, maybe less, right? So it freaked me out to just like have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I had to be in my head, okay, what can I make that takes the longest time to prepare and then the longest time to eat? So I was always trying to drag out the eating experience. Another sign that your body is still in a scarcity mindset and it still needs more food. Answer to that, eat a lot more food all throughout the day, all night if you need to. Keep eating. That's a sign you need more food if you're trying to drag out your meals. I had a rule that I did finish everything on my plate. So if I went to a restaurant, I didn't have to be like, oh, should I cut this in half and like take half home? Or nobody eats this much. This restaurant serves family size meals. So I'm just going to have, like, no matter where I went, I finished my plate and then always allowed for seconds, thirds, fourths. I had to ask myself every time I sat down to eat before I left the table or left, wherever I was eating, I had to ask myself, could I eat more? Do I want to eat more? And if the answer was yes, I had to eat more. So what I did with this, and this is a really good way of teaching your body that food is abundant, was if I was home and let's say I was sitting down for lunch, instead of just like making a sandwich and sitting down with some chips on the plate, a little handful of chips and a sandwich and I don't know, maybe an apple and a cookie or something, let's say. I sat down for that. I'm like, okay, this is a nice balanced meal. This is going to be great. This is going to satisfy me. I'm going to eat it and then this should satisfy me, right? Instead of giving myself this like predetermined limit that I was allowed to eat, what I did was like I left everything out. So I got the bag of chips and left it out, big family size bag of chips. I got the sandwich stuff and I made a sandwich, but I left all the sandwich stuff out. I had the brownies or the cookie or whatever it was, but I had like the whole tray. Um, so that like as I was eating, I told myself, you have permission to eat as much of this as you want, rather than trying to like put little bits amounts on my plate. That made me feel like food was scarce. That made me feel like I better really, hopefully this hits the spot and hopefully this satisfies me. And kind of this feeling of like panic, this isn't going to be enough food. If you're experiencing that, put a lot more food out on your table. And before you sit down, tell yourself, I can eat all of this if I want. That's going to help you with that mental restriction aspect that we all struggle with in recovery, right? So put a lot of food out. You have full permission to eat all of it. And then once you finish that, sandwich, cookie, chips, ask yourself, do I want more? And the answer is almost always, very likely, going to be yes. Then you need to make another sandwich and eat more. So that was something that I did as well, and that helped a lot. And that just made me feel, I mean, this is so sad, and you'll get it if you have an eating disorder, which you do if you're listening to this. It made me feel like warm and cozy. It made me feel anxious, but it made me feel like, oh my gosh, I know there's going to be enough food. Like, I'm not going to go hungry. I'm not going to be deprived. This feels so nice just to know that I have permission to eat as much as I want. And then the other thing, and maybe this will be the last thing, is grazing. You know, I've learned the term peckish. That's not a term we use in the US, at least that I'm aware of. But peckish or grazing or just kind of like picking at things, right? If you're picking at things, stop and just say, I'm obviously hungry. I need to eat a solid meal. I don't care what time of day it is. I don't care if you just finished a meal, but if you're picking at things and you're still just kind of grazing on a bite of that and a little taste of that and a lick of this and, cut off a square of that and this, and you're doing that, if you can relate to what I'm talking about, that means you're really hungry. Make a full meal, sit down and eat it. People that are really well nourished and eat satisfying meals and let themselves have snacks, they're not standing in the pantry out the fridge pecking at food. Okay. So use that as another sign that I'm really hungry. So a lot of these things, these obstacles, the answer is eat more food, right? And these are just kind of more specific ways that you can get yourself to have these like non-negotiables. Here are the things that I'm putting in place to make sure that I'm getting enough food, that I'm teaching my body that food is plenty. There's plenty of food. It's abundant. I don't need to be worried about not getting enough. I don't need to be obsessed about not getting enough. I'm just going to always have food around me. Oh, and then the last thing I just remembered, everywhere I went, I had food. Everywhere I went, in my car, in my purse, um, in the kitchen, in my nightstand, upstairs, in the laundry room. I even had like a little basket up on a shelf. I had food seriously like everywhere I went. So that's another thing. So you can never use the excuse, oh, I was out and about for 4 hours shopping or blah, 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 blah. You're telling me there were no stores anywhere. And if there weren't, then why didn't you have food in your purse? So that can't be an excuse either. Everywhere you go, take food with you. Again, it's going to feel that warm and cozy feeling that you have food available at any time. Whenever you're thinking about food, you have the food that you need. There's no excuses not to be eating. Okay, so hopefully some of these tools helped you. Maybe you've already implemented them. If not, I highly encourage that you do and let us know how you do. All right, have a good day.